And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Peter Khoury, who's had experiences with ETs through different points of his life, which we're going to learn about and more. Peter, thanks for joining me today and welcome.
Thank you for having me as your guest.
Peter, let's start with your first alien contact when you were about 3 weeks old.
Okay. Growing up, I grew up in a Lebanese Christian Maronite home. So the UFO topic was something that was never discussed. And it wasn't until 2004 when Bill Chalker was researching my case to write the book, Hair of the Alien, which was released in 2005. He was interviewing my brother who witnessed my 1988 experience, which happened at my parents' house. And as they were talking, my mum walked in the room and she asked what Bill was doing there, like what's going on, was he interviewing you? And my brother explained to her that he was researching my 1988 experience that happened in the house. And my mum said, oh yeah, I remember when Peter was 22 days old, I was breastfeeding him at 3 o'clock in the morning. And she said, as I was sitting there, I saw an alien looking through the window. Now in Lebanon, the window that we had in the house there, you had the glass pane, and then on the outside you had louvered wooden shutters, but these were open, so you could clearly see, inside and out. And she said there was a man that didn't look human, obviously, the description she gave, and was standing there looking at her. And she said he wasn't perving. She made that clear. She said he wasn't perving at me. He was looking at my child. And she said, what woman in 1964 in Lebanon in the Middle East wouldn't freak out seeing a man look at her through the window or someone look at her through the window? And she said she didn't panic. Wasn't afraid. And she just finished breastfeeding me and went to sleep. And she got up in the morning, and my uncle is a security guard. There's 2 security guards in the town. They're very well respected because they had keys to everybody's businesses and so on and kept everything safe. And she asked him to check if any, the town we're from is on the coast, and we have 2 cement factories. One is off-white cement and one's grey cement. And they're on either end of the town. And they got big ports there, and ships would pull in and, load up and take off. And my mum assumed that there might have been Westerners there, blonde, blue-eyed people, fair-skinned, Swiss, from Switzerland or Australia or wherever, just foreign Western countries. And my uncle checked around and found out that there was no ships in the ports at all that week. And and she brought it up, and it was strange because we never discussed this sort of stuff at home at all. And there was the first opportunity where Bill was talking about this with my family, and my mum came out with that. So it really surprised me. And unfortunately, I know he took notes, and I believe he might have audio recorded, but he didn't do a video. And my mum's got dementia now. She's in a nursing home, and it breaks my heart to see her like that. But at the same time, I wish we had a video recording of her talking about that. That would have been really, really cool. But and then when I was 7 years old, we had school holidays. I was still in Lebanon. This is around 71, late 71, I'd say. And we were playing in the street, me and 6 or 7, there were probably 7 or 8 of us all together. And we're playing, cowboys and Indians running around in the street. And one of the kids just said, let's go play on the roof. And the family that he named, he said, let's go play on the Ahmad family's house, like on their roof. And the Ahmad family, if you translate it, it means the moon family, which is, yeah. So anyway, we ran across, and as we're running up to this house to go up the side of the house and up the stairwell, I noticed one of my cousins, a younger female. She was the smallest one there and youngest, and she was running behind me. She was running last, so I slowed down and let her get in front of me. And as we ran onto the roof, obviously they ran on there before me. So as I stepped out the door, now usually this security door, it was a solid steel door. And when you opened it and pushed it open, because of the weight, it had come back and shut on its own. So if you were running through behind someone, you'd have to have your arms out in front of you to push this door open so it doesn't hit you in the face. So as I saw them running through, I saw the door stay open. It didn't come back and close. So as I was going through that doorway, I put my arms out in front of me to try and push. I was sure that door was going to come back and hit me. And it didn't. It stayed open. It was like some magnetic force had forced it to stay open. And I remember stepping out onto the roof and seeing all my friends, my cousins, just frozen like mannequins, like shop mannequins. And I thought it was a trick. I thought it was a game. I thought I was the last one on the roof. So, they're playing a trick on me. So I went up and I started tickling them. I started trying to tickle them around their waist, trying to get a reaction. I wanted to, if you try and tickle someone, they're going to move. There's going to be some movement, whether it's their eyes, the crow's feet near their eyes, whether they try and stop you, whatever. Nothing. It was like walking into a shop and going up to a mannequin and trying to tickle them and get a reaction out of them. You're not going to get anything. And that's how it was. And that concerned me as a child. I was like, what is going on? Why aren't these guys, moving? They weren't moving. And when I looked in their eyes, that's what got me the most, caught my attention. When I looked in their eyes, I didn't see that glitter of life in their eye. It was just like there was nothing there. And I walked up to another kid. I think he was about 2 years maybe older than us. His name was George. And I walked up to him and tried to tickle him. And then as I tried to tickle him under the throat, like tickle him just there, I was looking up at him. And as I looked up, I saw this egg-shaped object. I'd say the family that we were playing on their roof, they owned a VW Beetle. And that's how I compared this egg-shaped UFO that I saw in size to that car. It was probably about the same size. And it was a silver egg-shaped object hovering in the sky about 30 meters above us. Now, the house that we're in, the back of it, it was just fields. There was just open fields. And there was, on one side of it, there was a house. On the other side, it was an open, vacant lot. Then there was a house next to that vacant lot. So it wasn't very densely populated, and we lived across the road on the other side of the street. And so there were open fields behind it. Anyway, this thing was hovering in the sky. I'm looking at this thing, and it's silver, and it had a big, massive tinted window. Just imagine an egg with the wider end of it on the bottom and the pointier end at the top on about a 45-degree angle. And at the front of it, it had a huge windscreen that was oval-shaped as well. And it was like a TV screen when you switch your TV off. It was dark, tinted, very dark. But I could see two silhouettes in there of very thin, very tall beings. And they were sitting down, and not sitting down like our pilot would in a heli. Now, let me make this clear. We used to see helicopters on a daily basis, and they would fly around the town and drop propaganda. And it was probably Israeli helicopters and so on. And that's what the adults used to tell us. And as kids, we didn't care about what propaganda was on the paperwork, what information there was. We wanted to chase the colored papers. So we'd go around and collect, yellow, pink, blue, or whatever color papers they threw out. And so we were accustomed to seeing the helicopters with the soldier sitting and his feet dangling down onto the landing pad and, throwing out paperwork. Like they were that low that we could see them. We could see the helmet, we could see the visors. You could see, and it was clearly not a helicopter whatsoever. This thing had no propulsion system. It had no landing gear. It was just an egg-shaped object. And as I'm looking up at this thing, I could see the two beings in there, the silhouettes, just the shadowy silhouette of two beings. And I could see them looking over towards us. Well, the one closer to me, there was one, say, closer to me and one sitting next to him, away from me. And the one closer to me would look at us and then look back at the other one. And it was like they were communicating, and they looked like they were freaking out, like, what's going on? I don't know if they were freaking out that I wasn't in the same condition or state as my friends were, where I was frozen and immobile, I couldn't move. I don't know if that's what was freaking out, but they were definitely communicating about something and always looking back and forth. And then I noticed the object dropped about 10 meters, so it became closer to the roof we were on. And at one stage I thought, oh my God, this thing's going to land on the roof. But my friends were frozen. I couldn't tell them like, hey, look at this, look up in the sky and see this. There was no reaction from them whatsoever. And then the next thing, within a split second, next thing I remember is we're all downstairs on the bottom floor at the stairwell. Like 2 or 3 of us, or maybe 3 or 4 of us, were sitting down on the steps, and the rest were standing at the entry just inside the doorway. And straight away, we're looking at each other and we're asking each other, how did we get here? We were on the roof. And that's something that we communicated with each other, but they didn't see anything. And I didn't actually say, oh, did you see the egg-shaped thing, whatever. I didn't get the chance, because as we were asking each other how we got downstairs, because no one had a memory of walking down the stairs, we heard our parents calling out to us. And one of us stuck their head out and said, oh, we're here, and parents come in, and they were really angry and upset, and they were questioning where we'd been. And we said, we're up on the roof. And every time they asked us, where have you been? And we'd say, we're up on the roof. Whoever the parents, the children would get a smack on the bum, on the back of the legs. And it's like, don't lie, where were you? We'd be like, we were up on the roof. That's the only thing we knew, They must have thought we were up to no good, maybe kids playing doctors and nurses or something. And I don't know, but they weren't happy, I can tell you. And as they're questioning us, they said, you couldn't have been on the roof because we've been looking for you for over 2 hours. We've been screaming your names out. How could you not reply to us if you were on the roof? They thought that we were just neglecting them, being ignorant and not responding, just kids having fun there. But I guess we were frozen, or, most of them were frozen, and maybe, I don't know what happened to me, but there was definitely some missing time there, over 2 hours that they're saying. Could have been more, but I don't know. And I don't know how to, account for that time. So I don't have a recollection of being taken anywhere. That's my recollection of that story. And I remember we were grounded for a couple of weeks where, you couldn't go out and just play at whenever you wanted. And
let me stop you for one moment. I want to ask you something here. Since you had contact as a baby and a little older in life, do you think it's possible that these aliens are your star family and they're here checking up on you?
Look, I don't want to say that willy-nilly and just throw something out there that I haven't, I've considered that, obviously, and not taking away anything from my family, obviously, but yeah, I think there's some connection there. I believe that they played a part in my mum falling pregnant. Whether I don't know. I mean, it's hard to answer that question, but yeah, I do. I think there's a connection there for sure.
All right. Well, let's move forward to 1988 when you have your next big encounter.
Okay, so we moved to Australia in 1973. I settled in really quickly. I actually fell in love with Australia when I was on the plane flying over the country and I could see the land below me. I just saw different colours of green and, backyards with swimming pools, and it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful country. And as we landed, I assimilated really quickly. I fitted in, and I got moved. When I started school, I was put in year 2, and then 2 weeks later, they moved me up to year 3. And I loved growing up in Australia. I really, really enjoyed it. I had really made friends with a lot of different nationalities, and the area we lived in was multicultural. There was a lot of different nationalities there, and you had your issues here and there, but overall it was great growing up in that area. 1988, I had gone to year 12, which is higher school, and only it was year 11 and 12. I finished school in year 10, high school, and got a job. And one day I was visiting a friend of mine at school, and as he was talking to me, I looked in the playground and I said, who's that girl playing netball, and she had the ball at the time. And he looked back and he says, "Oh, her name's Vivian," And I said, "Oh, that's exactly what I want my wife to look like." No word of a lie. I go, "That's exactly what I want my wife to look like." And I ended up the following week applying to go to that school, and I did. I made it in there, and we met. It was funny. Like she walked up to me one day and she says, "Where do you live?" And I said, "Oh, told her the suburb." And she goes, "Oh, only 5 minutes away from you, walking distance. Do you want to walk me home?" And I was like, over the moon, I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'd walk you home." So we did that for about, 3 months, walked her home. We wouldn't catch the bus or public transport to get home. We'd walk. And we talked a lot, we liked each other. So I eventually got asked to leave the school. It was either, you're going to get expelled or just leave. So I left. I was there for about 7 months, but I accomplished my goal. I met the person I wanted to meet. And, we went our separate ways after high school, and she got engaged to someone. And eventually she went to Greece on holidays, and when she came back, the day she came back, she contacted my parents and they gave her my phone number. And I was living with a woman who was 11 years older than me, had 2 kids at the time, and my parents weren't very happy at all. I went down a bad road there for a while. And anyway, I got a call from Vivian, and, she asked me to catch up with her. And when we did, we realized, we'd still had that connection. And we decided, we're going to get engaged and get married down the track. And one day it was actually, it's coming up soon anyway, tomorrow. It was Valentine's Day, 1988. And we were sitting in the car. She was going to go to Queensland on the Monday, and I was going to follow her up there the following Monday. And we're going to spend a week or 2 up there. And we were sitting in the car, and I was sitting in the driver's seat, and I had my back to the door. And she was sitting in the driver's seat, and she had her back to the door as well. And we're looking at each other face to face, and we're just talking. And something just said to me, "Look up in the sky." And as I'm sitting there, I had the window wound down. As I'm sitting there, I just put my head out and bent back, leaned back and had a look in the sky. And I saw this bright, like I'm talking bright ice white light that was very defined. It wasn't like, it had a haze or anything. It was just this solid light. You could see a full circle. And it was like the light was contained in it. It wasn't splashed out. And it was moving from north to south. And as I looked out, I saw how bright and how big it was. I've never seen anything like that in my life. And so I said to her, "You got to have a look at this." So we got out of the car and we were watching this thing, and it stopped right on the Southern Cross. It stopped on the higher point star on the Southern Cross. And like it stopped on a dime. It didn't slow down. It was moving rapidly faster and then just stopped. And as it did that, she was like, "Oh my God, can you see it? It just stopped." And then it shot a beam of light, and it appeared at 2 places at once. So you saw it in point A, it shot this white beam of light, and then you saw it appear at 2 places at once. And then it disappeared from point A, the original point. But it did this so erratically in a triangular formation on the 3-pointer stars on the Southern Cross. But it did this erratically. It was like back and forth. It wasn't just one motion, it was back and forth, reversing and moving, making crazy, crazy maneuvers. And it did that for about a minute, which is a long time sitting there watching this. So I grabbed the cardboard thing and I rolled it up to tunnel my vision so I can, look at just that point. And I gave it to her and she had a look. And the first words that came out of her mouth after that was, "It looks like a war with the stars, Star Wars, war with the stars." And I said to her, "No, it looks like it's searching for something." I assumed that the beam of light it was shooting out was some sort of searchlight. I didn't realize it was traveling on that beam of light and being at 2 places at once. It was like hyper jumping in space, it was crazy. But I didn't know all that then. I was just, I was looking at this thing doing these maneuvers and freaking out a little bit. And then all of a sudden it stopped again on the top star where it first originated from. And then it just shot straight up into the sky. In a split second, it was gone, vanished. So we just looked at each other and we were like, my God, tomorrow morning or tomorrow on the local radio, newspapers, TV, everybody's going to be talking about this, because I'll tell you right now, that display was better than any fireworks display you could ever see. And we thought thousands of people had to have seen that. It was 8 o'clock at night, clear sky. People had to have seen it. Next day we got up, nothing on the radio, nothing in the papers, just dead quiet, nothing about it. So I don't even know if anybody else did see it, didn't report it. We didn't report it. We saw it and didn't report it to anyone. So I don't know if other people did. I hope they did, and I hope they hear me talk about it and they remember and come forward, but who knows? So that was 1988 in February.
Now, after that, did you start remembering what happened to you when you were on the roof? Did it bring back those memories?
No, not at all. Not at all. It wasn't until 6 months later that something else happened, and that triggered my memory recall and so on. So 6 months later, July, I'm watching television with my dad. Now, don't forget, I just moved back home. I've lived on my own for 5 years, moved back home, and hadn't spent much time with my dad. So here I am, 11 o'clock at night, sitting in the television room, in the lounge room with my dad, watching a TV show that just started, a movie. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed spending some time with my dad, because we weren't really close when I was growing up. And being away for 5 years, I hardly, saw my dad. I saw my family. And so we're watching television, and out of the blue, my brother, it was about 10 minutes, 15 minutes into this movie, and my brother walked out of my bedroom, and which had a single bed in it. It was my bed, but he was sleeping in there. He walked out of my bedroom and he just walked up to me and he said, "Can you go watch TV in your room? I want to sleep out here." It didn't make sense to me. He was already asleep, And I said, yeah, I was a bit disappointed that I couldn't sit there with my dad. I said, yeah, no worries, I'll go watch TV in my room. So I said goodnight, walked in. I walked in, sat on my bed. I did close the door to my room. I sat on my bed, and I've got the funny thing, I had this TV in storage, and I've just found it. It's sitting on my desk right now. I'm looking at it. And it's this little color Shiba television. It was one of, they just came out at the time too. And I sat down on the bed, and it was on a little coffee table against the wall, between the wall and the bed. And I leaned over and I pressed the button to turn it on. And as I turned it on, I went to lay on my bed. So I grabbed, put my hands like that behind my head. And as I went to lie back on my head on the pillow, I had my right leg crossed over my left leg. And as I went to lay down, my hands hadn't even hit the pillow. I haven't even touched the pillow yet. And I felt something grab me around my ankles, like as if it was just grabbed me. I thought it felt like it could have been the index and the thumb, that area of the hand, but it could have been a device, because as soon as I felt it grab me, touch me, and it was pretty solid grab. It wasn't just, a light touch. It was a solid grab. I felt pins and needles crawling up through my legs, all the way up my legs, all the way up through my body, up through my face. My face started tingling, and then up the top of my head. And the way I described it originally was like it was, thousands of ants crawling through my scalp, but it was like static electricity more so. And so I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? And I become paralyzed. Now, growing up, I did martial arts, I did taekwondo, karate, kickboxing, played sports. So I was pretty active, I could handle myself if I needed to. And I'm lying there and I can't move. I'm paralyzed. And I'm not thinking, oh, alien or anything like that, because I hadn't seen anything at that stage. I'm just freaking out that, oh my God, what just happened to me? I can't move. And I couldn't even call out. Like I was freaking out a little bit, and I tried to call out to my brother and my dad, and I couldn't. So anyway, as I look down at the foot of the bed where something grabbed me, and I see a little creature. And when I say creature, I'm talking a gorilla, a 3 to 4 foot in height, gorilla-looking creature with a robe and a hood over its head, which the hood made the head look so much bigger as well. And to me, they looked horrific. I'll give you a perfect description of what they look like and compare it to another case, which we mentioned before. And the way they depicted and the whoever gave the information and the artist that did the depiction, it was just perfection. I couldn't have given a police sketch artist a better description than what I saw. But anyway, that's down the track. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at this creature at the foot of my bed, and I'm terrified because it looks horrific to me. I was looking at a gorilla looking thing with, white forehead, deep wrinkles in the forehead, deep set round eyes, big ridges for the eyebrows, big white nose, big lips. The skin looked bluish, dark bluish black to me, like a dark, really weird, and it had a shine to it as well. As I'm looking at the guy at the foot of the bed, with the corner of my eye now, I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. I had my eyes open. I think if I had my eyes closed, I would have thought it's all a dream. I would have put it down to a dream or a nightmare. But I had my eyes open, and as I looked at the corner, I could move my eyes left to right. And as I looked to the right side of me, I saw two more creatures, beings, that looked like the first one I saw, and they were at my right, to my right side, between the television and the bed now. I obviously couldn't see where the TV was because they were blocking it. And they looked exactly the same as the other one, very robust, very, very frightening looking. And at that point in time, I thought I was looking at evil. Like, people will say, oh, aliens are demonic, and they used to say they don't exist. And now that we have evidence that they do, oh, they're demonic, there's always something. But anyway, I was petrified. I was absolutely petrified. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is evil. This is the devil. I'm paralyzed. This is how I was thinking the process. I wasn't thinking, oh, these are aliens. Oh, they're taking me. No. I was thinking, whatever this is, I'm paralyzed for life now. I'll never walk again. Can't call out to anyone, because I was trying very, very hard to call out to my dad and my brother who were in the next room, and nothing. I could think of their name. I could think of my brother's name. He's Sam. I could say the name in my mind, but I couldn't get it to come out as a voice. Couldn't physically do it. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be here. My parents or family, someone in my family is going to come in to wake me in the morning, and they're going to realize I'm paralyzed. I'm going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I was petrified. And then as I'm thinking all these thoughts and thinking these things are evil, with the corner of my eye again to my left side, I caught movement. And when I looked, I could see two completely different beings. These beings were tall, I'd say 7 foot tall. And now I'm laying down in bed, so obviously they would have looked taller than they might have been. But to me, they looked about 7 foot tall, very slim, skinny, almost tubular-like arms. They didn't have definition in the arms like major muscles or anything like that. And I noticed there was a male that was closer to my head or my shoulder. And then next to him around my waist was a female. And I could tell it was a female because she had a bigger chest. They both had masks on, like surgical masks on, but his mask was under his chin. He wasn't wearing it covering his mouth, where the female did have the mask on her mouth. Now, we all know now after COVID, we all know masks, right? Every variety of mask. They're about 4 fingers, majority of them, 4 fingers wide, cover your nose and your mouth. These ones that I saw were probably about 2 fingers wide. Their mouth isn't like ours. They don't have lips like us, and protruding out. It was like you drew a line with a pencil across his face, and that's all I saw. I didn't see the lips move. I didn't see teeth, nothing. I just saw a little line, a long nose, but you couldn't even see the nose. It's very slightly raised as a ridge. And then on the point where the nostrils were, there was just 2 holes. It wasn't like ours at all. It was just like 2 holes in the face. And then the big, big almond-shaped black eyes, massive black eyes, like big as a horse's or cow's eyes. And I've got to say, as soon as I looked at I'm looking at the male now. I've already scanned both of them, realized one of them's female. As I've looked back towards the male, I just fell into his eyes, this black void. And as I did that, I got the feeling, not a feeling even, a knowing that this being, and I think that's why he didn't have the surgical mask over his nose or mouth. I think I had the feeling that he had I know this being, he knows me more than I know myself, or better than I know myself. And I just fell into this void in his black eyes, and it was like I was hypnotized. I instantly, from feeling petrified, like I was sweating, I wanted to get up and fight these other creatures that I saw. I wanted to kick them, I wanted to punch them, I wanted to get them out of my room. I wanted to fight, and I couldn't. And then here's these two beings, and as soon as I look in this being's eyes, it was like I fell into this black void and I became completely calm. But at the same time, he's saying to me, not speaking, I couldn't hear voices. It was telepathic. It was a knowing in my mind. See, telepathy isn't hearing voices. You're not hearing someone screaming in your ear telling you, come on, mate, do this or do that, you know. It's not. It's a knowing. It's a feeling. You feel it. You don't hear it. You actually feel it and you know it. And it was saying to me, calm down, relax. We're not going to harm you. Calm down. It'll be like the last time. Calm down, relax. Just repeatedly kept saying, calm down, relax. It'll be like the last time. And I'm laying there and I'm thinking to myself, excuse my French, but what last time? Like, what do you mean? But then I knew that this being knew me. Like I had this feeling that this being knew me more than I knew, better I knew myself. So as I'm looking at him and he's saying, calm down, relax. We're not going to harm you. You know, it'd be like the last time. Calm down. I see him holding what looked like a syringe in his hand. And it was like 3 fingers. It wasn't with a thumb, you know, and it was like, it was held almost like that. And there was a tube coming out of the hand with a flexible, like an optic fiber cable. It was very flexible, very thin. It had a light at the tip of it. It was almost like those optic fiber things you see with, you know, it's all lights up at the tip of it. Anyway, and then as he's saying, calm down, we won't harm you, won't hurt you, relax. He pointed it to this part on my head right about there. And I felt it go in. I felt the pressure of it going in, but I didn't feel pain. And as soon as I felt, I could tell it broke the skin. I could feel it. I blacked out like nothing. I'm just not there anymore. I blacked out. When I came back to, I opened my eyes. I jumped out of bed. I sprung out of bed. I had been fighting this paralysis for such a long time. When I got movement, I sprung out of bed, opened the door, went into the TV room, and I went to talk to my father and to my brother. And I noticed they were both asleep. So I shook my dad. I tried to shake my dad. Dad, wake up, wake up. I couldn't wake him up. So I went over to my brother and I'm trying to wake up my brother. I said, I think Dad's had a heart attack. I can't wake him up. I think Dad's dead. You know, like I couldn't get anything out of him. And I couldn't wake up my brother as well. So I just slapped him 2 or 3 times across the face, you know, Sam, get up, get up. He snapped out of it. He got up and I said, I can't wake up Dad. I think he's had a heart attack. So my brother tries to wake up Dad. He goes, grab a glass of water quickly. He splashed it on my dad's face and then he slapped my dad 2 or 3 times. My dad woke up, didn't say a word, didn't ask, why are you doing this? Why are you putting water on me? Why did you, you know, nothing. My dad just looked at us and just sat there and quietly just didn't say a thing. And I asked my brother, I said, mate, how long has it been since I went to my room? Because to me, it was about 11:15 when he asked me to go and stay and watch TV in my room. So my brother says to me, I thought it was about 10-15 minutes since I've been in my room and then came back out. And he said, I think about, 10 minutes. And I said, yeah, that's what I thought. And then when we looked at the television screen, the station the movie had been over and the station had closed. And back in that time, the TV station wasn't open 24 hours a day. It closed about 2 or 3 o'clock, and there'd be either just a blurry screen, or there'd be a test pattern on the screen, or there'd be a picture of the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge and a song, My City of Sydney. So yeah, that's what we could see on the TV, just this blur. And the movie was over, and it was at least, 2 hours or something had gone by. So I checked the time, and it was after 2:30. So I went into the kitchen, to the fridge, grabbed a glass of water, and I went to my room and I sat the glass of water on the side of the bedside chest. And I thought to myself, if I get up in the morning and that water's there, it's not a dream. This is really happening. So obviously I get up in the morning and there's a glass of water sitting on the side next to me. And I thought, oh, gee, something must have happened. And I went to have a shower. And as I came out of the shower, I'm drying up. And as I'm drying my right leg on my shin area, it burnt. It was really, really sore. And when I looked, there was a mark there, and it looked like you got a cigarette and just put this cigarette on my skin, on my shin, and burnt it. It was like 5 diameters in a circle, about 5 diameters, and about 5 millimeters, and then about 2 millimeters deeper. And it had 3 distinct marks on there, like 3 distinct points in a triangle. And it was red raw. It was fresh. So I thought, oh, okay, this must be related to what happened last night. You know, I didn't know why, for what reason, but I thought that's the only way I could have got this injury. I didn't know how it happened. So anyway, 6 hours later, I drive down to the Sydney business district to pick up my fiance at the time, Vivian, from work. And as soon as she jumped in the car, she sat in the car, she looked at me, went to give me a kiss, and she's gone, oh my God, what happened? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, I can tell something's happened. Did you have a fight with someone or anything? I said, no. And she was like, well, something's happened. And I said, well, look, something did happen to me last night. I need to speak to someone. I may as well tell you. So I filled her in on it. Now, don't forget, 6 months before we had seen that light in the sky, the light display. So she was open to it. She was Greek, by the way, Greek Orthodox. So not into the UFO field whatsoever. Anyway, as I told her the story, I said to her, yeah, and they pointed a needle to my head in this spot. And as I touched it, there was dry blood under my fingernail. And then she had a closer look, and she said, her comment straight out was, oh my God, you got a donut hole in your head. And she goes, it's deep and there's blood there, you know, dry blood. She goes, you got to go to a doctor and get that checked out. I said, yeah, and there's this mark on my leg. And as I lifted my jean leg up to show her, it was healed. There's a scar there, like you can see. I don't know if I sent you, maybe not. But yeah, there's you can see in the book, I think, Hair of the Alien, it might have a picture of that there. There's a distinct scar on my leg, and it looks like a bullet hole, and it's still there to this day. But 6 hours after I had the shower and it was red raw, it was completely healed. Like the skin was healed over. It was just a scar. And anyway, I dropped her off at home, and I went to the doctor, who was 5 minutes up the road from her parents' place. And she had been my doctor for 10 years, and great doctor, fantastic doctor. Had some family issues, which put a lot of stress on her and, you know, caused her a lot of grief and so on. But she was a great doctor. And anyway, I walked in there and sat down to talk to her, and I said, look, doctor, I've had this experience, you know, explained what happened to her, showed her the mark on my head, showed her the mark on my leg. And she was like, oh, come on, Peter, you probably hit your head on a nail at work. I said, doctor, I've stepped on nails before. I've come and seen you. I get a tetanus shot, and I go, I don't give you a story like this. And she started laughing, and it disappointed me. And I remember saying to her, if you think I'm crazy, don't laugh at me. Send me to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but don't laugh at me. And I got up and walked out. And as I walked out, people in the waiting room actually said to me, geez, that joke must have been funny. What were you telling her that was so funny, you know? And I just shook my head and walked out, and I never went back to see her ever again, which is sad, but yeah. And then her life fell apart. Her son ended up stealing her car and hitting parked cars and went to jail and committed suicide. He hung himself in jail. She had a lot of trauma. And so that was 1988. That was my introduction to the abduction stuff, but I had no clue what it was. I didn't know anybody or anyone that had experiences like that.
Did these two beings that were 7 foot tall have hair?
No, not that I saw. They could have been in a jumpsuit because they were gold in color all over, like goldish color. I didn't see any different tone, like flesh, like skin. It was just, could have been a complete jumpsuit, but I don't think so. I think that's their skin color. And no, I didn't see any hair on them whatsoever, no.
Would you classify them as what people call tall grays?
No. If anybody has seen, I was going to get to that, but if anybody has seen the movie Communion, Whitley Strieber movie, that's exactly what I saw. The small creatures with the hoods, gorilla looking, and the taller goldish looking beings with the big, massive black eyes. Even the heads weren't oval shaped as they were oval shaped, but they were more at points. Like it'd start at a point, come out, and then it'd sharpen down. It wasn't rounded. It was more. There was, edges to the face, even down around the chin, and then it went to down to the chin. But it was like you could see the points where the face. It wasn't just the oval rounded face. They're definitely not greys. Definitely not greys.
Do you feel like the tall beings were the ones in charge and the little ones?
100%. I think the tall beings were the scientists, part of the mission, and the other ones were the military, or they controlled the situation. But yeah, they looked a lot more robust than the taller beings.
Did it take a lot for you to process this? And if so, did it change your life much at that time, or did you get over it quickly?
No, it certainly changed my life. It certainly did. And I had that experience, and I had it in me. My brother experienced it with me. And now there's something else that happened when Bill Chalker interviewed my family. My brother recalls sitting in that chair that he was sitting in when I went to wake him up. And he said that he couldn't move. He was paralyzed. Now, where he was sitting, the back door and the front door line up perfectly, right? He was sitting there, and he said he saw me being floated out of my room, out to the front door, towards the front door, with three beings around me, like one at the front, one on either side. And he said he was petrified because he couldn't move. He couldn't get up to grab me. And he thought it was my soul. And he thought my soul was being taken and he'll never see me again. And it petrified him. And that all came out later. That wasn't discussed at the time. That was like 1988. And then 2004 is when all this stuff started. But, my family started commenting on this stuff.
Do you think that the ETs even manipulated your brother into changing rooms with you?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I've always thought that. Since day one, I thought he was told to get out. Just didn't make sense to me at the time, and it still doesn't. But yeah, I think they did. They had an influence over him walking out and doing that, yeah.
Even though they had this telepathic way of communicating with you, it also seems like telepathically they could control you as well.
Without a doubt. Yeah, they can. Yeah, telepathy is a very, very strong tool. And we don't understand it. Even now, we don't understand it. And when the time comes when we do, I think it'll push us way ahead in a lot of different things. But yeah, people think it's hearing voices. When you say telepathy, they communicated with me telepathically. People think, he's hearing voices. No, it's not that. But anyway, what got me into the UFO field, I still didn't know it was UFOs and aliens and that. I didn't grow up in listening to all this or hearing about any of this, so I didn't know what to do. I actually thought at that point it was probably more evil. It was probably more demonic or something, and I don't know why, but that's how I thought. Maybe the way the creatures looked, it was, a bit scary looking. But one day I was driving for work. I was in the van, and I stopped for lunch in a car park. And as I did that, there was a radio interview on one of the radio stations. I think it might have been 2UE or something radio station. But it was a guy called Brian Bury. He used to do the weather on Channel 9 on the TV, but he had a radio show. And he was interviewing a guy called Whitley Strieber. And I'm sitting in the car, just relaxing. And I hear this guy start talking. And he's talking about beings appearing in his cabin. He went out to this cabin. And then beings are appearing and they're disappearing and they're in his house. And he's got a shotgun and he's shooting at them in the house. And I'm thinking, yeah, I could relate to a lot of things that he was saying, but there was a lot that I couldn't relate to. It was like a checklist. I'm ticking some, I'm crossing some out. And then I hear him describe the beings. And as soon as he described the little short guys, I was like, oh my God, that's what I saw. It just caught my attention. It glued me to my seat. I was like, whoa. this interview went on for about 40, 45 minutes. And I didn't care. I just wanted to hear every word he had to say about it. And then he describes the taller beings, the goldish color beings with the big black eyes, all that, and the telepathic communication. I was like, oh, wow, okay, this guy's had a similar experience to mine. So it was talking about this book. And funny thing, Vivian and I were driving home one day. This is before I heard this interview, probably 2 weeks before I heard this interview, something like that. We're in the car driving. We're on the road at a set of lights. We're stopped, and there was 2 buses stopped at a bus stop. And we seen one bus take off, and as soon as it took off, there was a poster there, and it said, a black poster with writing, "They're coming." We're like, oh, okay. A week later, we saw the same poster, but "They're here." It had in white writing, "They're here." We didn't know what it was about. Then the next time we saw the bus shelter, the bus took off, and bang, right there was a picture of the tall goldish color ones with the big massive eyes. I'm talking a bus shot from about here. It wasn't a full body shot. And it just hit me like a ton of, it just hit me so hard. We both looked, she looked at me, she's like, "Oh my God, that's what you saw." And I'm like, yeah. Anyway, we went looking for the book after I heard the interview, because it was just it just blew me away. I found the book, and I've got a photo of my ex. We're separated now. We've been separated for a few years. I've got a picture of her holding that book, walking into my parents' front yard through the gate. And because I was taking a photo of her holding the book, she was embarrassed, so she put it to her face. So you see this alien face right up in front of hers on the front cover of the book. And she read the book before I did, and she'd read it on the way to work on the train, and then she'd read it on the way back. And every time she got to work, every day, she'd ring me and she'd say, "Peter, you've told your story to someone and they've written a book about it." She said, "Because this is what happened to you. What you told me, everything that you told me is in this book." And I'm like, "But I haven't told anyone except you and the doctor, And then we started doing, that's when I started searching and buying all these books and everything you see around here. The collection started.
Have you ever had a conversation with Whitley and compared notes?
We sure have. Yeah, I met Whitley around 96, 97, I believe, in Brisbane. And yeah, we had the opportunity recently. I did a podcast in Canada, and Whitley was there the week before me. And the podcast host, Chris Ramsey, on Area 52 podcast, he actually wanted to get us together and sit us in the booth and we have a chat, like a cafe booth he's got there set up. And it just didn't work out. And maybe down the track we might do that, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, no, definitely I had a chat with Whitley, and Professor John Mack was here at the time as well. And Professor John Mack and I became like a father figure to me. Whenever he'd come to Australia, he'd spend a lot of time with us at my house and traveling around with him and so on. Yeah, I was devastated when I got the call that he'd been killed in a hit and run accident in England. He was a pioneer and gave the field a lot of credibility, did a lot of good work under a lot of pressure from Harvard, and but he just stood his ground. He knew what was going on. It was real, and he wanted to support the people. And I remember him attending a workshop that I had. That's the first time I met him. And we stood in the foyer of this hotel and took a photo, and it was a jungle setup behind us. And he said to me, he said, "Peter, look at what you've done. Look at where you've done it." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "I'm used to, in America, I'd have to go down alleyways and down stairs into basements and hidden places." He said, "to have these meetings." He goes, "Look at you. You're doing it it was called the International Pacific Hotel." He goes, "Look at you doing it out and, in front of everyone. You don't care." Like, I was like, "No, I don't care." And it was a really good workshop. It worked in people's, people had experiences, started coming to me, contacting me and so on. And he had the opportunity to speak to them, different people. He was interested in one family where the whole family, 4 people, were having experience, boy, girl, children, and then the mum and dad were all having experiences. Yeah, so we became really close, and it was hard to hear that, he was killed by a hit and run driver, drunk driver, and left lying on the road, But yeah, may he rest in peace. But then we move on to 1992, and that's when they say reality bites. And you can have all the experiences in the world. You can have multiple experiences. You can have witnesses like I did with my brother seeing things. It's not going to count for much. People aren't going to believe it. People are going to think you were dreaming or you're making it up or whatever. But when you get physical evidence, it changes everything. And I was fortunate enough in 1992 that I had this experience. And people always, I've done so many podcasts, documentaries and so on, but people still comment on my case and get it completely wrong. They use terms like, even Richard Dolan says, too Nordic, he meant Nordic women. I didn't. It was one blonde Nordic looking, Pleiadian looking woman. There was an Asian looking female as well. It wasn't two blondes. I've got to make that clear. It didn't happen in the middle of the night. I didn't wake up out of my sleep and this thing happened. No, it happened at 7 a.m. Well, more specifically 7:15 in the morning, because at 7 o'clock, I got up out of bed. I drove with my wife and I jumped into the car. I drove her to the train station. She got on the train. I came as we're driving there. As soon as we got out of my street, which is 4 houses to the corner, as soon as we got to the corner at the intersection, I started feeling sick. And I opened the door in my car and I stuck my head out and I vomited. And it was yellow and green, just water, no food. You couldn't see anything in it, just water, liquid. And as we drove to the station, the further I got, this is something that I have to talk about because it's so important. The further I got from my house, the more regularly I would stop, open the door and vomit. And I don't know where this stuff was coming from because it was a lot of liquid coming out of me. But it just was happening more regularly. Like at first it was every 15, 20 meters. Then it was every 10. Then it was every 5 meters. I'd have to pull up and vomit. When I dropped her off and came back home, headed back home, the closer I got to my house, the less frequent I would stop and less violent the vomiting would be. So by the time I got into my street and then pulled into my driveway, I didn't vomit at all. I came into my house, I opened the door and walked in. I didn't need to rush to the bathroom to vomit or anything. I just felt like, not feeling well. I'll get back into bed. So I closed the door behind me, the front door to the house, and went into my room, laid on the bed. It was July at the time, and I just put the quilt over me, and I laid in bed. And this is at 7:10 in the morning, say 7:10 in the morning. And then all of a sudden, I've got my head down, not even for a minute, and I felt something jump on the bed. And to me, it felt like it could have been a heavy-set dog, like a big dog. Too light for a cat, but at the same time, I thought, could it be a cat? Could it be a dog? And we didn't have pets at the time. So it caught my attention. I felt an indentation in the mattress. I felt something sit on the bed. So, I got up, sat up to look, and as I went to sit up, I noticed my astral body, my soul, whatever you want to label it, people can label whatever they want. But I saw an image of me, a transparent image of me, come out of me, and it was like sitting up exactly how I was going to sit, but it did it before me, and it was sitting right in front of me. And I could see, a transparent image of me. And as I looked, I could see a female kneeling, straddling me on top of me, but looking at me. And I was like, then my body, as I sat up, my body and my astral body or soul caught up, and I became one again. And as soon as that happened, the instant that happened, she put both her hands to the back of my head, cupped like that, and just grabbed the back of my head and brought it towards her chest, the left side, and buried my face into her chest. And I'm claustrophobic at the best of times. I've been in armed robberies. I've had shotgun to my head. I've had guns 3 times. I've had guns to my head, 2 pistols and a shotgun. And I handled it. I don't crumble. I'm pretty. I can deal with that sort of stuff. And anyway, put me in a lift or restrain me and I get claustrophobic. I don't like it. I don't like it if I'm in the lift and it takes too long to get to the floor I'm getting to. I just get a bit, my sister's worse than me. But anyway, she buried my face in her chest and I couldn't breathe, so I pushed away from her and I put my hand against her body and I was able to push away. And then she pulled me back towards her chest again. And again, I pushed away. And then the third time she used a lot more strength and buried my face in her chest. And I couldn't breathe. Like I was struggling to breathe. And I was trying to push away and I couldn't push away anymore. So the only thing I could do was, and people say, oh, he took a bite out of her breath. No, I didn't take a bite. It was just a nip, like a pinch almost. Instead of pinching with your fingers, I pinched with my teeth and she let me go. But instantly I felt something hit the back of my throat as like I swallowed something. And I thought it might have been a bit of flesh, a bit of skin. But when I looked at her, she didn't have any damage there. She didn't have a cut. She didn't have any bleeding. I didn't see any skin. Like she was perfect. But I did swallow something. And I don't know if they gave me a tablet or something, but as soon as it hit the back of my throat, it was like you poured acid down the back of my throat. It was burning like crazy. So I start coughing and I'm coughing and I look up and I see the blonde female that's straddling me. Now I'll describe her, then I'll describe the Asian one. The blonde female that was describing me was perfection. If you wanted to have a fantasy or whatever, she was just, her body was perfect. The size of her chest was perfection. No gravity at work where she's from. Beautiful, beautiful face. Elongated face. In saying that, I knew she wasn't human instantly. Just looking at her, I knew her face. She had a longer face than a human female would. Look, if you know the singer Cher, she's got a longer face. She's got protruding cheekbones. It was that, but a bit more extreme. You could see the protruding cheekbones. You could see the sunken cheekbones in cheeks. Then it came to a pointy chin, not a witch's chin, like a pointy witch's chin. No, it was rounded, but, pointier. I didn't see ears, milky white skin, beautiful blue eyes, like absolutely gorgeous blue eyes, but about 2 to 3 times, I'd say 2 times bigger than a human eyes. But because she was shocked at me pushing away and reacting, that when I looked at her, I think she had that shocked look on her face, so her eyes were bigger. But absolutely stunning, stunning. Her hair was flimsy. It was real wispy hair. It was thick but wispy. And it looked like it was being blown. I describe it like Farrah Fawcett Majors in Charlie's Angels, that hairstyle with the blown back look. It looked a bit like that. And whitish in color. It even looked a bit maybe like transparent, but I couldn't tell because it was, there's a lot of hair there. It wasn't like I was looking at one strand or anything, but yeah, absolutely stunning. And she's straddling me. And I realized then that I was no longer under the sheets or the quilt. I was on top and she was on top of me. And then I looked over and on the side of the bed, on the right side of the bed, towards the end of the bed, not quite at the end, just past halfway, was a Asian looking female. And she was sitting on her, like with her legs bent under her. And she was sitting at first with her hands clasped around her ankles and then moved them to her knees, like she had them resting on her knees. And she had normal dark tone compared to the other one. Her skin was like really, really white, as if she'd never been in the sun. I didn't see a flaw. I didn't see a mark on her skin. Flawless. The Asian one was darker tone, shorter than the blonde one. And she had big eyes, and I could just see mainly black in her eyes with a little bit of whites on the ends. And she had a dark black straight hair, a page boy, like straight cut across her forehead, down to about her shoulder length. And she just sat there and they just looked at each other, and I could tell, I picked up straight away they're communicating telepathically. And the blonde female was saying to the Asian looking female, something's gone wrong. He's done this wrong. This isn't like the last time. Something's gone wrong. And here we are once again. I'm like, what last time? What is going on? And I'm freaking out at this point, thinking I can hear what they're saying. I can hear the blonde communicating with the Asian one. And I get this coughing thing again because I'm still getting this acid burn in my throat. I get a download of information where the blonde is pumping me with information so quick, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm never going to remember any of this. Oops, sorry. I'm never going to remember any of this. I'm not going to remember even 1% of it. It's so quick. It's been said to me so quick, telepathically, just boom, 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 boom. Anyway, I'd start coughing again, and I look down, I'm coughing, I look up, they're gone, vanished. Don't know how they left, don't know how they came in, don't know how they left, but they vanished right in front of my eyes. And so I got up out of bed and I went into the kitchen and I grabbed some water, and I thought I'll wash this thing in my throat down with water because it's so irritating. And as soon as I drank the water and it touched that area, oh my goodness, it was like I'd lit a fire. I'd poured fuel onto the fire and it just exploded. I just could not breathe. I was coughing like crazy. So I grabbed Lebanese bread and I tried to eat Lebanese bread thinking it might absorb whatever's there. It didn't help. Anyway, then I had the urge to go use the bathroom. And as I went, every man would know when you're ready to get a build up and then you release. And when I got that build up, it was like I felt like 1,000 cuts on me. And it really, really hurt. And when I had a look, I don't want to go into full detail. Some people have said to me, why don't you take a photo while the hair was on your private area? Now, I'm like, that's stupid. But anyway, when I had a look, I noticed that there was 2 hairs. One of them was half wrapped around and the other one was like in an S shape. And I thought, there's no way. Now, the night before, my wife and I went to bed. I had a shower. She went to bed. We didn't do anything. There was no reason for anything to be there. So I realized straight away, this has got to do something with what happened to me this morning, you know. So I look at these hairs and they're embedded. So I grabbed the hair, and as I tried to take it off, I didn't realize that it was so embedded into me. And oh boy, I was feeling uncomfortable with the throat thing, the burning acid burn. Now I was in the most excruciating pain, peeling this hair off me, which was embedded in, so it was ripping off. And then I took the other one that was half rounded on there, and straight away, I didn't drop them. I didn't put them anywhere. I didn't leave them and go back and get them. Straight away, I thought, this is connected to what happened to me with these 2 females. I'm keeping these. Went and grabbed the bag, put them in the bag, sealed it, wrote a note on it, 2 females, blonde, Asian looking, just quick notes. It's a quick description. And I kept the hairs for so long, 6 years before anybody looked at it. But anyway, 20 minutes later, say, I called my wife. She was at work at the time. I waited till she, got off the train, walked to work, and first chance I got, I called her. And I'm talking to her, and as I'm talking to her, she said, excuse me, sorry to interrupt, but who am I talking to? And I said, it's your husband, it's Peter. And she was like, oh my God, you sound so different. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, your voice sounds, maybe from the coughing and the burning, it had an effect on my voice. And I said to her, look, I was coughing as I was talking to her. And she's like, Pete, have some cough syrup or something. I said, no. Something happened to me this morning. I said to her, remember the vomiting and that? She said, yeah. I said, look, something happened to me. I'm not ready to talk about it yet. But when I am ready and I do talk to you, just, put the 2 and 2 together and just remember the coughing and relate it to the story I'm going to tell you. And I'm coughing, like constantly coughing. And for 3 days, I had this coughing, and I'd have coughing fits for like 10, 15 minutes at a non-stop coughing. My organs, my internal organs were aching. I was so sore from just continuously coughing and coughing for a long time. So anyway, it took me about 3 weeks before I felt a bit guilty, 2 females in your room in the morning, But one day we're sitting down and I said to her, look, I'm ready to tell you, remember the coughing when I rang you? And yeah. So I started to tell her the story. And she surprised me because I thought she was going to question and, be freaking out. And, are they really aliens? Were they humans? Yeah, I told her the story. I told her what happened, exactly what I just relayed to you. And her response to me blew me away. She was like, well, it's not like you instigated it. It's not like you called your girlfriend and brought her, to our house in our bed and that. She goes, you had no control over this. It's not your doing. And it blew me away because I thought I'd be asking questions. I'd be, a bit more investigative than that. But anyway, she supported me, always has. We've been separated for 9 years now and still supports that. She's never said a bad thing about my experiences, never put anything out there. We're not on, the best of friendly terms and that. We don't talk much. It's all through solicitors at the moment, but she still supports, my story and my experiences and that. And when we moved into our house that I'm in now, which I have to sell soon, unfortunately, and have to pay her half, and I can't, afford to keep the house. But she had an experience here where she saw a ghost, and she described it like looking like Abraham Lincoln in that it had a top hat, it had a beard, it was wearing an old Undertaker's uniform with a jacket with a long tail at the back. And it walked across the hallway. I was at home and she asked me to go get some ingredients for her she was cooking. And as I went out the door, a minute or two later, she heard footsteps come through the house again, and she thought it might have been me. I left my wallet or something, and I'd come back to get it. And she was in the kitchen. As she turned around, she saw in the lounge room a man walk through the house, and she was petrified. So when I got back about 15 minutes later, I walked in the house, and she had her hands clasped to the back, to the kitchen bench, and she was shaking. And I walked in and I saw the look on her face. And as soon as I walked in, she said, Peter, there's a man in the house. I'm like, what? She's like, there's a man. He walked in the house. He was dressed up. So I searched the house inside and out, cupboards, curtains, everywhere. Couldn't find anything. But when we first bought this house, the first night we were here, house was empty. We just had a couple of milk crates we were sitting on, and that same TV. I don't know if that TV has something to do with instigating experiences or something, but it's been in a couple. Anyway, we sit down watching TV, and we heard footsteps walk through the house, heavy footsteps. And we thought the house had been empty, and we thought maybe there were squatters that, got into the house somehow and they're in. But there was nothing. Footsteps came right to us, meters away from us, but we didn't see anything. We heard it. So there was a bit of activity happening in the house, when we first came in. So it didn't shock her that something would happen, because we've been experiencing a few things. And then anyway, moving forward, I had this hair sample in a bag, 2 hairs. I had them in the bag for a few years. And then one day there was 2 females here, movie producers. And I had Bill Chalker was at my house at the time as well. And we're talking about doing a documentary. And one of the females says to me, she makes a sarcastic comment. She says, oh, you know what, Peter, if this really is happening to people, there must be some physical evidence. And I said, you want evidence? I'll show you evidence. Now, I had known Bill since about 1992, 93. I'd known him, but I didn't talk to him about this case. Anyway, I said, you want to see evidence? I'll show you evidence. I went and grabbed the bag and I said, here's evidence for you. She's looking at the bag. Oh, yeah, okay. Bill looks at it and he's like, Peter, why haven't you told me about this? I said, Bill, my 1988 case is on its own enough. This is a whole can of worms I don't want to open at this stage. And I said, but have a look at the notes and you'll see. And, he could tell what it was about. So he had it in the back of his head. Anyway, sometime later, he called me and he said, look, I've got a group of friends, scientists, biochemists, so on. They're interested in doing some work with alien abduction or any evidence that comes from experiences with alien, scenarios and so on. And I didn't even hesitate. Like people say to me, oh, you're crazy. You gave the hairs. Yep, take them. So I gave them both the hairs, went away, tested them. Then I got a call from him and one of the scientists. They said, we'd like to get a sample of your Vivian's hair, my ex-wife's hair, a sample of my hair and so on. And they tested them and it was nothing like, they didn't match at all. And then they came back and said, look, we got really weird results here. We're really keen to continue this investigation. And they kept the hair was kept for 10 years. I got it back after 10 years. Well, obviously the hair, most of it was destroyed during the DNA testing, but they did run a DNA test on it. They ran a nuclear DNA test as well sometime later. So there was a number of different stages where they tested these hairs. And what they found was one of the hairs fortunately had the root and the shaft attached. The other hair looked like it was broken off. It was a piece of the shaft. Me personally, looking at them at the time, I thought it was two different hairs. And I thought one was from the blonde and one was from the Asian-looking female. That's how they looked to me with the naked eye. Now, Bill Chalker guarantees me that they looked under the microscope and that those hairs would match each other. I still can't believe, I don't know how, what I saw, they looked different. But anyway, lucky that there was a root and a shaft. When they tested the root of the hair, they found the rarest Basque Gaelic DNA, tall, blonde, Scandinavian-looking, blue eyes, And then when they tested the shaft of the hair, they found the rarest lineage of Chinese mitochondrial DNA, which only like 4 people around the planet might have a match or something. So it was really strange. Now, before that, I had a panel of people come out and interview me. There was about, I think, 10 to 12 people sitting down, and I was sitting on a chair and they were interviewing me, asking me questions, taking notes. And I remember saying to them, whoever made these females made them for a reason. Now, I didn't know anything about cloning back then. Dolly the sheep hadn't been cloned. There wasn't much talk out there in the public about cloning. And then obviously when Bill Clinton put a 5-year ban on anybody cloning humans or trying to or whatever. But I said to them, whoever made them, they made them for a reason. And they said to me, what do you mean? I said, well, I think they're made to breed with people. This is like years before the testing was done. And the one thing I've mentioned is people, okay, while I'm having this experience with the blonde, she actually touches her stomach and she points to the sky. Now, I didn't read too much into it at the time, but later on, people suggested that she could have been pregnant. And she was saying, I'm going to have a baby and I'm going to have it up there, whatever. But I don't go into that too much. I don't know, but she did point to her stomach and point up. But anyway, so with the testing, the more they tested, the more crazy results they were getting, more interesting results. So it caught the attention of a lot of people. It actually made it into the International UFO Reporter, and it was on the front page. And they had the blonde female. It was like a sketch, actually, not a painting. It was a pencil type sketch, and across the chest. They had the DNA readout, and there was a lot of people who took note with that. And and then the case just gained a lot of interest. And in 2005, Bill wrote the book Hair of the Alien, which is this one. I don't know if you can see it properly. I've got the one with color version. Actually, there's a picture of the scoop mark. I wonder if you can see that.
Yes.
There's a hole in my shin, yeah. And this is a image of me in '88 with the shorter beings and the gold ones. And that's the result, the DNA, where they found the DNA. So in 1993, in April 1993, this is just after, not long after having this experience, I was involved with another UFO group. And that's the thing, when I first went on this search, I called a lot of people, and I didn't call UFO people because I didn't know it was UFO related. I was calling psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors. And every time I talked to them, I talked to them for half an hour. But as soon as I'd say, look, there was a presence in my room and it was, big eyes, like describing aliens, whatever. I didn't know what they were, but I was given a description to them. They go, oh, no, we don't deal with that, and hang up on me. Wouldn't even refer you somewhere else. So it was a struggle. It was hard. And then I spoke to a psychologist in Queensland, and he said to me, look, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about similar stuff that you're mentioning now. He said, I think it's UFO alien related. And I was like, what? What do you mean? What is this? And he said, look, there's a group forming in Sydney, I heard. Touch base with them and see. I actually went with two female friends of mine, went to that, their first meeting, and they were trying to name the group, and they had a competition. And myself and the two female friends with me, we actually named the group and won the prize. It was like three books, I think it was, on UFOs. And I got involved with that group from that day, and I was involved with them for a little while. And what I found was they were very interested in researching lights. And actually, on the 4th of July this year, I'm speaking at one of their meetings, which is, I found that they're interested in searching lights in the sky years ago. 1941, there was a light over whatever. They were happy to do that. But anything to do with physical, in-your-face, alien abduction stuff, they didn't want to know about it. And at that time, Bud Hopkins was just starting to break out with his alien abduction research. He wrote the book Missing Times and some other books, and he was just starting to break through in that publicly. And he came to Australia, and we attended the meeting, and he spoke, and I got the opportunity, me and a friend, to interview him before the event started. And, when I told him that I've had the experience and I'm thinking of starting a support group, he was all for it. And I said, but do you think someone like me who doesn't understand what's actually happening to me, could I be of help to other people? And he said, perfectly, it could be. He goes, 100%. You're probably more in a position to do that because you understand what these people are going through. You've lived it yourself, even though you haven't understood it fully. He goes, none of us understand this fully yet, and maybe we never will. And that's what Professor John Mack used to say. It might be something we're not meant to understand. It might be something way beyond us. But I eventually in April 13, 1993, I founded the UFO Experience Support Association, and that was a non-profit organization just to help people to have someone to talk to, because I knew how difficult it was for me looking for someone to help me, and I couldn't find anyone. And we registered it as a non-profit organization, and we were fortunate enough that we had a number of professionals ranging from doctors, hypnotherapists, counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, physicists, you name it. People just jumped on board, and the group became so popular. And for about 15, 16 years there, we dominated. There was a TV show done when Professor Mack came out, and I think it was Dateline with Terry O'Brien on ABC channel, which is a government channel. And they did a report, and they showed Professor Mack, myself, and a couple of other people lecturing at a venue. They showed a support group meeting that I had in my house with people, discussing their experiences. And it just built up from there. So more so than my experiences, like I've had my personal experiences in that, I'm more proud or more interested in, offering that support system to people, that people from all around the world were writing to me, were calling me, telling me their stories. I've got folders behind me like that thick with people's letters from all around the world. And I'm looking at writing a book. I've written a lot of pages, over 260 pages already. I just need to tidy it up and, finalize it. And I'm going to include some of those letters from people around the world. But I'm really proud that I had the vision to start that. And it was the first group of its kind in Australia. And, the people that were involved got a lot out of it. I'd have couples come in here, and the partner, say the husband, isn't interested at all. He's a complete skeptic. And once they came in and realized they were not here to fool people or give you a scenario that we want you to believe in, it was just you telling us your story. We just listen. We don't even tell you what we think it is. I'd have the partner shake my hand at the end and say, thank you so much. You've opened my mind, and leave, wanting to look into the topic. And I can understand it. when a couple are in bed together and one's having an experience and you're trying to wake up your partner, but they're gone because they're put out, like my brother and my dad were. It's hard for them to understand and go, oh, yeah, okay, you got taken. They were in our room. How come I didn't see it? I understand all that. But there are things that some people experience and some people don't. And it doesn't mean it's not real because I didn't experience it, you know. And I find that now we're in a whole different world where the alien topic, I'm not talking about abductions, just the UFO and alien topic is on a lot of people's minds. And it's because of the internet and because of the reach that you have now around the world, a lot of people are interested. And to be honest with you, when you introduced me, you were saying, oh, you're known around the world. And I didn't realize that. You know, I feel like Rodriguez, the singer. I've met Rodriguez. He sang that song, Sugar Man. I've met him personally, and I work in security, and I was his bodyguard protecting him for 3 days and that. And we had a one-on-one conversation where he was really well known in South Africa, but didn't know it. He was so popular, didn't know it. And he was broke and he got ripped off by his manager and so on. And he didn't even know how. And it's the same with me. Like my partner now, I've been with my partner for 3 years. When I was going to Canada, I got asked if I'd take the hair sample with me. And I was going to do it. I was going to take it. And my partner said, no. She's like, you're traveling on your own. You don't know what's actually. She goes, babe, like, you don't realize there are people out there who are really interested in your case and support you and back you. And some are fans. And I never thought like that. I never thought that I'd have people, you know, who support me and know me and back. But then when I came back, I didn't end up taking the hair to Canada. That's one thing. But when I came back from Canada, I was at work. And I work in a church. I won't name where, but security. And the first week I was there, there was a bridal party, an Asian bridal party. And one of the Asian groomsmen came up to me and he said, are you Peter? And I thought he was one of the guys, you know, he's a local or something. And he's just coming up to ask me a question. I said, yeah. And he said, mate, I saw you on the podcast, Area 50. He goes, mate, I just want to thank you for having the courage to speak out, and shook my hand. And then the following week, I had another bridal party walking in. I was at the main doors and the guy stopped, took a second look. And he's like, are you Peter? I said, I know you from somewhere. And he goes, no, you don't. He said, but I saw your podcast. I just want to thank you so much for having the courage to speak out. And it hit home with me, you know, that yeah, there are people out there who are interested and who follow my case and who, you know, who support me. I I never thought like that, you know, and that's why I do these podcasts. Like I've got 4 lined up in the next 3 weeks, and I don't get paid for it. I don't make money out of it. I've never made money out of my, if anything, if I have to take time off work, people have to, you know, it's whoever's, I've got to be covered for that. But other than that, I've never made money out of my case. Bill Chalker wrote the book, Hair of the Alien. People think they say, oh, I read your book. It's not my book. It's Bill Chalker's book. It's about me, about my experiences. But I never made a cent out of that case, you know. And so, yeah, I've never been about money. And now that I have to sell my house, lose my house, and what's breaking my heart, it really upsets me, actually. It's the room that I had my experience in, you know, in my house. And I'm going to lose that forever. We're now the one at my parents'. My brother lives in that house. I can always go there and we can reenact it or film whatever. But with this one, if I sell it, I lose it. That's it. And that's really upsetting to me. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But, you know, hopefully I'll get this book done. I had a publisher contact me last week, waiting for a call back from them. And we'll see where it goes. But I was never about money with this. It was never about money. It was always to educate the public and people. And, you know, we used to offer schools info packs where kids doing projects. You know, they'd call us and we'd send them an info pack and they do their school projects on UFOs and aliens, which was great. But yeah, I've never ever thought that I was famous or, you know, popular, or never looked at that side of it at all. But lately I'm realizing that, yeah, there's a lot of support out there, which is great.
Do you look at this experience as something negative or positive?
Look, I can see how people can look at it as a negative, because It can be scary. It can be frightening. And anything we don't understand, we're fearful of. Like, let's face it, things we don't understand, we fear. It doesn't matter what it is. But for me personally, I'm going to speak for me, not for everybody else. It changed my life for the better. Although when I was looking at these creatures in my room thinking they're evil, that's the devil, they're paying me back for, the deeds that I did. And not that I did anything terribly bad, but I was petrified looking at them, but reassessing things, looking back, and it changed my life for the better. I was heading down a bad track there, and I hit the brakes. After that experience in 1988, I hit the brakes and changed my life completely, and I'm proud of that. And, it hasn't been such a negative effect. Look, I get it. I get it through work. Not a lot of people are open-minded to this, but people that know me will always say to me, I don't believe in that topic, Peter, but I believe you because I know you. They know me. They know I'm not the type of guy to make up stories. I'm a head supervisor in the security industry where, like, I've even worked at the Opera House for a lot of times, and I used to look after big teams. I'm not bragging. It's just the fact. And you're not gonna have 100% support behind you going, yeah, I believe you. And I don't want people to blindly believe me. I want them to research. I want them to do their own research and question and find their own path, And no, I believe it's had a positive effect on me. I'm glad it happened to me. I'm open to it happening. It doesn't frighten me. If anything, it's made me a better person.
Since 1992, have you had contact in any way, including dreams or seeing UFOs?
I've certainly had. What I'm talking to you about is probably the tip of the iceberg. I concentrate on the conscious recall cases that I have that are solid in my mind. It's like me talking to you now. I remember that. I don't talk about, like, I might mention it, but I don't use it as the basis, the foundation of my whole experiences. I've had multiple sightings of UFOs, multiple. I've had 250 people standing next to me in a park watching an object that we thought was a helicopter crashing, and then it just shot off into the sky. And I've got photos. I've got like a sequence of photos, and I even got a photo of it after it shot away. I was lucky enough to point the camera in that direction and take a shot. I've seen something near the Sydney airport where it was a silver sphere in the sky, just hovering there you could see the sun glistening off it. And there were people there looking up at it, watching it. Like, I've had multiple UFO sightings. And I've had experiences as well. As I say, like, I had an experience in 1996, and it was not long before Professor Mack came out in 1996 to Australia, actually, and I met him. I had this experience where I was in my room, and that's the thing about selling this house. That same room, I was levitated in 1996. I was levitated off my bed, and as I started to lift off the bed, I was feeling this, static electricity on my back, basically, more so my back of my legs and my back and the back of my head. And I started to levitate off the bed slightly. And then as I looked towards my room is a double room, there's an archway. And then on the other side, there's a built-in wardrobe, mirrored wardrobe. And as I looked, I saw a bunch of the little hooded guys coming through the mirror. And to me, it looked like a big group of them, And I was freaking out. And as soon as they got to me and levitated me and they started to move me towards the mirror, I realized that it wasn't a bunch of them. I could see their reflection in the mirror. So it looked like double the number there it was. There was only 3 of them. And one was in front of me at my feet, and the other 2 were around my shoulders. And as I got through, I seen the being go through the mirror, and the mirror went all shimmery, almost like water cascading down, but not quite. It wasn't like falling down. It was just like moving and then shimmering. And I saw this being go through the mirror. And I'm watching, I see my feet go through the mirror. And when my feet go through the mirror, I feel like I'm going through like big, hot, warm jelly. And I could feel my feet pushing through it, not hard, like I'd have to kick through it, but I could feel going through, and I felt this little bit of resistance and so on. And then as I felt my body, I could see my body going through, getting closer, and my head is getting closer and closer to that mirror. And I could see the shocked look on my face. When I looked at my reflection in the mirror, I was in total awe and shock. Like, what is going on? I get taken through the mirror, and as I went through, and I could see it, I'm right up, my eyes are right in the reflection, and I could see my head felt really funny, real fuzzy effect as I went through the mirror. And then I'm I don't even know what's going on the other side. I don't have a memory of anything beyond just seeing my face in that mirror and then going through. And next thing I remember, I'm in my bed, and I can't tell you what happened, where I was taken, what happened to me once I went through that, but it seems as if they can, I don't even know in 1992 if they came through the mirror, those two females, or they used the mirror as a doorway, or did they just appear? I don't know. But one thing that happened with that mirror, that door, I had my kids years down the track, I've got a boy and a girl, and their cousins, my nieces and nephews, were all playing in the room because we've got a massive bath in there, and they used to all, use it like a swimming pool, basically. And they were playing in the room, sitting on the carpet there playing and so on. And then they all came out, and about 2 minutes after they came out, I heard this mighty crash, like a massive crash, like something exploded in my room. And I ran in there, and that exact door that I went through was leaning. It was what happened was it fell. It must have hit something and broke, and it shattered big, massive shards of glass. And one of the shards of glass was actually in the carpet against the door, and it was holding it up off the ground. And I was like, oh my God, if the kids were there, it would have killed them. Without a doubt, it would have hurt. A lot of those kids would have been hurt that day. And for some reason, it didn't happen when they were there. It happened a couple of minutes after they all worked out. Thank God. Like, I'm blessed, because when I saw those shards of glass and how long they were, it terrified me what could have happened. And I don't know, was something happening to try and get those kids through that mirror? And it affected the door in a way that it made it move and fall. I don't know, because it was it's on the railing, like it's on a sliding rail. I couldn't understand it. But that's something strange that happened with that one. But as far as sightings, I've had many.
Peter, if people out there want to contact you and share their story with you, are you open to that? And if so, how do they contact you?
Well, that's why I started the support group in 93, was for people to be able to speak to someone. So, look, I'm happy for people. They can contact me on Facebook. Even on the UFO ESA, UFO Experience Support Association.com, I've been having problems with the site where it seems that someone has stolen the name or the domain or something, but people can still reach me and make comments on there. I'd love to give out even my phone number, but look, on Facebook, it's Peter Khoury. There's a lot of Peter Khourys out there, but I think if you just Google me, do UFO thing, Peter Khoury, alien abductions, whatever, you'll come across it. But yeah, I'm open to anybody who wants to contact me and have a chat, or, send me an email or something. Actually, I'll give you my email address, and that way it makes it easier for people to contact me. It's Peter, all lowercase, Peter K, 88 at mail, mail.com. So Peter K, 88 at mail.com. That'll make it easier, I think.
Peter, before we finish up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
I feel that the day and age that we live in now, people are more open-minded. And I just want to ask people, anybody who's had an experience, if you believe you've had a genuine experience, just talk about it to people. Talk about it with your family, with your friends. You'd be surprised that in this day and age now, people are more open-minded to it. And I think we're heading, I hope we are heading for disclosure. I had Stephen Bassett, he's a spokesperson for disclosure. I had him as a guest at my house. He stayed 3 days at my house, and I invited 50 people over. It was invite only, and he gave a presentation. I remember him saying, this is in early 2000, after the Twin Tower attacks and that. And I remember him saying, oh, within the next 12 months, we're going to have disclosure. And I actually put my hand up and I said, Stephen, I'm sorry, but I've been holding my breath for a long time. I refuse to hold it anymore. I'm just going to breathe. I don't think it'll happen in 12 months. And here we are, 2026. And I know disclosure has been building up, and it's been Senate hearings and inquiries and questions, so on. That's great. I love that. I would love nothing more than for the truth to be put out. I think we can handle it as a civilization, as a society. I think we can handle it. It's going to throw a lot of questions, up about religion and about other things, but knowing the truth, I think, and knowing what is out there might make religion, in whatever religion you believe in, it might make it stronger. It might give you more to go with. But yeah, I just think hopefully, I think we're ready. I just hope our governments, feel the same and just tell us. I don't know why we need our governments to tell us the truth. There are multiple millions of people witnessing. Look, I'll put it to you this way, just to finish off. I've been a witness in court for the police, right? I've been a witness in court for my own personal stuff that I have to deal with. And you can be a witness in court and someone can be convicted and sentenced to prison on your evidence, on eyewitness evidence, right? Testimonies. Now, you walk out of that court and you look up in the sky and see a UFO, run back into the court and say, hey, guys, come out. I just saw a UFO. No one will believe you. And there's a song by Squeaky Sound System called I Saw a UFO, Nobody Believes Me. I relate to that song a lot because it's funny in a way, but it's true. And that's what we've got to change. We've got to change that, just because I don't experience something doesn't mean it's not real. I haven't experienced the war in Ukraine and Russia. It doesn't mean it's not happening. There's people getting killed there every day and they feel it and they live it. And it's the same with the UFO alien stuff. There's people out there that are living it. Just because you're not, it doesn't mean that it's not happening.
Peter, thank you for your message and thank you for being my guest.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.